Alright, here we go. Yo, what's up? It's the Insane Game Freak here. We're currently in E3 week, but all the major press conferences are done. So all we really have left is just more of extra behind the scenes stuff. Nintendo's doing stuff for today and tomorrow, and then ARMS comes out the Friday. And then I think Sony's still putting out stuff. I think Microsoft. I think it's just at this point it's just stream conversations and shit. And the press are finally getting their hands on these games. I think that's all that is. So I think we can talk about the conferences because all the conferences are done. Now I had a few ways I could have went about this, and I chose instead of doing what everyone else is doing, which is making 3 separate videos on 3 separate conferences. Most people at least watch 1 or 2 of these conferences. So we're going to just overall jump into it and just talk about it as a whole. Also because I inherently believe if I put out a Microsoft video, considering my live reaction to it, it's like asking to get burned alive. And hell, there ain't no reason to separate Microsoft when Microsoft's video ended up being like 3 minutes and Nintendo and Sony's ended up being like 10 each. So let's just talk about them all and compare them to each other because that's what people do any fucking ways. To be arguably fair, it's kind of hard to judge E3 press conferences objectively because we all have our personal biases. The other problem is that it depends on how you look at E3. That's one thing I've learned over these E3s, that people look at E3 completely differently. Some people just want game announcements. They want new and exciting game announcements, which I think is at the core of every E3. But some people don't care about when the game comes out. They just want to know the game exists. And then some people care about when the games are coming out, so I know when I can really get excited for them. It seems to fluctuate from person to person, but the general idea is the conference is supposed to tell me something that I didn't already know at the end of the conference, and I walk away from the conference with a particular feeling. With that being said, it's weird because I would say none of the conferences this year were really great. Even Nintendo's, particularly because of a few things. Because people expect me to come up here and dick ride Nintendo, which to tell you right now, I do believe overall they won, but I'm going to give you a logistical reason why. Because the thing about E3 this year is that we have the Xbox One X announced for Microsoft, which was about $500, which is about honestly that's probably I'm not offended at that price. The name is stupid, but then again the Wii U's name was stupid. So hey, I guess the good thing is they're naming things. The bad naming clause is not a fucking Nintendo only thing. So I guess that's the thing. Microsoft went out there and showed a bunch of games. But I would say they had the worst press conference because the pacing was fucking bad. They dragged on the certain trailers way too long. There was shit up there that shouldn't have been up there, and they felt like there was padding in it. On top of all of that, Xbox still doesn't understand how the fuck exclusives work. They want to keep playing. They're about the games and the diversity, and there are cool things about their conference. Like there were more Japanese games on there than I expected. And granted, it wasn't many. I think it was like 1 or 2. Actually, I think they had more Japanese games technically than fucking Sony did, which is kind of a trip in its own right. No, never thought I would fucking say that. But at the same time, all those Japanese games are either multi-plat or are on at least PC, which kind of kills the reasoning for you buying it on Xbox One. I think that's like the major thing that comes out of Microsoft's conference. Oh, they had some games that were kind of cool and I'd be interested in, but I'm not buying it on their platform. That's like the issue with Microsoft's conference. It's like okay, you got cool games, but more than likely people are going to buy those games, but they're not going to buy them on your platform because your platform is not their platform of choice. But in terms of sheer quantity, yeah, I probably would say they did the best out of the 3 in terms of quantity. They had a lot of fucking games, but in terms of quality, the shit ranges, and in the ones that were quality, you don't have any reason to buy an Xbox One, especially depending on how you give a fuck about 4K. And considering most of those 4K games will be taken advantage of on at least in a similar level on like PlayStation 4 Pro, and more people as of right now own a Pro over an Xbox One X for obvious reasons, I mean, it's not like there's nothing really there to make you go, man, I really need to get this on the X when I got to spend $500 on the console plus another $60 on the game. Whereas the I think it's like what, 1 million or so people who own a Pro. I just got to buy the fucking game, and I may not get every single 4K feature, but I will get 4K features where I'm spending an extra $500. So that's the thing in itself. The biggest thing for me personally was the fact that, like, and this was an issue between almost all the conferences, is that no one thought release dates was fucking important. Microsoft, I don't think, only showed, like, what was it, a few of them? I think it was Cuphead, I think it was Forza, I think it was obviously the multi-plats like Assassin's Creed. I don't think most of their games, it was the same thing. Early, like Xbox One launch exclusive, or Xbox One and PC and Windows 10 exclusive, but none of them had fucking release dates. It was just kind of like the game exists and it's coming out, and then more likely it's going to come out first on Xbox, but you were just kind of like, but I don't know when the fuck the game comes out, which was the problem. Like, you're sitting there going, well, I don't know when the game comes out, so what? It's like, how excited do you expect me to fucking be? And then we go into Sony's, where Sony's, I would argue, was probably the worst of the three. And that's something I didn't think I would fucking say, but that was such a lackluster showing. But that also depends on what you went in there for. As I said in my predictions, all Sony really need to do was just show me the games, give me release dates for some of the games, and maybe show me 2 new games. My expectations for showing me weren't that fucking high because I knew what was going to happen. I knew it's something that Sony's always had a problem with. They announce games so far in advance that, like, by the time you see them for the second or possibly third time, you don't get any real concrete information like a release date until like the second, borderlining the third time, which was the issue here. The only 2 games in the conference, because I want people to understand the distinction between the conference and after the show. Because people got mad when people include the Treehouse as part of the E3. It is a part of the E3, but to be fair, I'm not including the Treehouse this year, which means I'm not acknowledging the 3DS announcements and all that other stuff. Whatever was in the conference is what I'm acknowledging. So even though we know about Ni no Kuni and YS and Yakuza, and hell, even Knack 2, which that one bothers me the most because you went out of your way to make a sequel for the game that actually comes out this year, but you didn't put it in your fucking press conference? That ain't make any sense. Like, look, am I excited for Knack 2? Fuck no. But you're going through the effort of making it and developing it and putting it out for the public. Why in the fuck not put it in the conference and remind people of it? Because that definitely isn't a game that has a lot of mind share. So I don't understand that one, especially because that was a 2017 game that you guys do own as an IP. But fuck it, we're not going to address that. What we're talking about is the conference. From the conference, you got 2 games for this year. You got DLC and DLC. Horizon's DLC and Uncharted's DLC. Those are the only 2 games in 2017 you got. Now you could argue that Sony's playing the 2018 game. The problem with that is that none of the 2018 games have release dates. The best we got out of the 2018 games was sorry, I bet you my sister's taking a shower, so if you hear that noise, I apologize. For 2018 games, the only thing we got out of that was early 2018. That was the most specific we got, and that was for God of War. So Days Gone, I don't even think they announced even a 2018. And that was the other problem. Some of these games didn't even get 2018 release dates. Some of them just said, they kind of showed gameplay footage, showed the title of the game, and then left. Like, there was nothing else said about it. It was just kind of like, here's some gameplay, here's the game's title, bye. And then other games got the fucking 2018, early 2018, a whole bunch of fucking VR. Now, personally, I don't give a fuck about VR, but it's hard to count it against them because you did put out a VR headset last year, so it's something that kind of has to be in the conference. But it's fucking VR, and none of it was interesting. Honestly, that should have been in the pre-show because it's fucking VR. But I don't know. That's I'm not gonna hold. That one's a weird situation because it's hard to hold that one to or against Sony. But it's still something that isn't inherently interesting. And the other problem is that there was only like 2 new games at this conference, which was a remake of Shadow Colossus, which apparently is different from the remaster of Shadow Colossus that it got last gen. Which, okay, fine, you're gonna push a remake of an old game that you've already done a remaster of. All right, whatever. And then the other one was Monster Hunter Worlds. Now I know that means a lot for the Nintendo fan base and people who like Monster Hunter. But it's a multiplat, so it's not even like a game I can really go, yeah, Sony, you got it, because it's a fucking multiplat. So there's not much to talk about. And then on top of that, that was the other problem, is that like the new games that were in Sony's fucking the new games that weren't in Sony's press conference last year were multiplats. Like we saw Call of Duty and we saw Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. All right, cool. It's not, those games don't belong. Those are Capcom and Activision's games. It's the thing. For me, it's all about each company. So like, yeah, you guys are getting your Destiny 2s, and yeah, Xbox has Anthem, and it's not like these games don't matter. It's just more of like, I look at each company individually for their specific offerings, and the biggest problem with Sony and Microsoft when you compare their conferences is that it's like, well, they both get the same games, so like it comes down to exclusives. And even though Microsoft has more exclusives, it's that whole, well, they're not going to stay exclusive for Xbox because because Xbox doesn't give a fuck about exclusives. And Sony, all their fucking major hitters are not until next year, and all they're really relying on is some more of their niche titles, which, granted, those are still important, as we've seen throughout this year with Neo and Nier and shit, but they're still niche titles and they're not heavy hitters. Like the vast gaming public doesn't get excited for Nino. Well, they probably do now because Nino Kuni did so well, but most people weren't going out of there. Like the mainstream Sony audience is looking forward to Days Gone. God of War looks nerfed as fuck, but I guess that one's up to debate as far as whether that's a good thing or not. My biggest thing coming out of the Sony press conference is like, wow, you showed even less than I thought you were. Because your 2 new games was a multiplat and a fucking, a multiplat and a goddamn, and a remake. Then everything else was DLC coming out this year. And then everything else is just new gameplay footage and see you until next year. Like, and the problem is, if you look just at that conference, you're just kind of like, so do you not have anything for 2017? Like, dead ass. If you look at that conference by itself, if you were the kind of person who tuned into E3 and just watched the Sony conference and just watched Microsoft's conference and just watched Nintendo's conference, you would have walked out of Sony's and went, so they're not putting out any games this year? Like, that's literally what it felt like. And you're just kind of like, well, that's not great. So people saying Sony won would have are their fucking months, and people said they did great. Because you showed more gameplay footage of games we already knew about, and you announced 2 games. You announced 2 games, and we got DLC for 2 popular Sony titles. I don't really call that a fucking home run. Personally, I would say that's pretty below average, actually. At least Microsoft showed not only new games, but showed a lot of exclusives, even if they're only timed. Which is why I'm arguably to say that Microsoft did better. The problem is Microsoft's conference was worse. But Microsoft, in terms of its announcements, was probably better. And then we hit Nintendo, which was 25 minutes. And people were expecting this to be a dick-sucking thing. But the problem is that I'm not overly interested in Metroid. As I said, I've said it numerous times, the only Metroid title I've played is Other M. The one that everyone hates. So it's like Metroid Prime 4 now in development. It's like cool, but we know that game at the earliest isn't coming out until like late 2018, more than likely 2019. Same thing would go for Pokemon. Actually, he even said it probably would take over a year. That also means that Pokemon isn't a game that's coming out anytime soon. But the advantage to Nintendo is that Nintendo covered all their bases. We got Metroid and Pokemon for the far future. We got Rocket League, Mario and Rabbids, even though that was shown off of the Ubisoft one, which made it even more redundant on top of it being the main Switch game that's been leaked every fucking where for the last, almost a year at this point. But yeah, Mario Rabbids. I lost my train of thought. Damn it. Mario Rabbids Rocket League, which is an old game, so I get if you don't want to count it, you don't have to. But I'm saying it's 2017, Odyssey's 2017, Fire Emblem's 2017, Xenoblade's 2017. That's 5 2017 games, and then you gave me 2 2018 games in the form of Kirby and Yoshi, which considering they already have gameplay for, I would assume those are probably early 2018 games, which is always a good fucking thing. Nintendo to me covered all their bases. You had the now games, you had the games in the near future, and then you had the games in the far off future. The biggest problem with Nintendo's though is that even for being 25 minutes, it felt like they were still putting fluff in there, having Reggie talk twice in the damn thing, then having what's his name, Takashi? I'm not totally sure what the dude's name is, the other guy in there talking, and then obviously having the Pokemon Satoshi come in there and talk about Pokemon again. The other problem is that we still ran into redundancy with you reiterating Pokemon Tournament to people, and which I don't know, I'm conflicted with, because like if you're gonna show the sizzle reel at the beginning with Rocket League, Arms, Pokemon, Splatoon and shit, why did Pokemon need to get readdressed again? And then on top of that, they had to readdress the tournaments again. And I'm conflicted because it's like, as a Nintendo fan, it's like, I already know about this shit. Why would you waste your 25 minutes with this kind of shit? And you're just kind of like, that's not great. Also, if you're going to mention Rocket League in the beginning, and considering it's an older game anyway, it didn't need its own little section later on. Same thing with Mario and Rabbids. Mario and Rabbids we already knew about from Ubisoft. If Ubisoft is going to announce it, why in the fuck does it need to also be in Nintendo's? It needs to be in one or the other. Which is why Assassin's Creed pisses me off. Ubisoft has a conference and we still ended up seeing Assassin's Creed like, what was that, twice, 2 or 3 times in the conferences, because it showed up in Microsoft's conference and then we saw it again at Ubisoft's conference. And it's like, well fuck, I don't want to see the same game 2 fucking times. If I'm a gamer and I'm looking at all the conferences, it's insanely redundant. It also hurts, for me it was worse for Nintendo, because Nintendo's thing was so short. The other problem, and to be fair, because I always got on other companies for this shit, is the CGI trailer thing. I always thought the reason why companies did that was a cop-out for not having gameplay. I personally don't think it means too fucking much to have gameplay. I mean, to have a CGI trailer, which is part of the reason why I was watching Ubisoft. So I was like, oh my god, there's a heavy abundance of CGI for Ubisoft, which made even less sense because Ubisoft had gameplay. So I was confused about that one. But if I'm going to say that, then it's kind of like points for Metroid and Pokemon are very minuscule because neither of them even had that. It was literally, hell, Pokemon didn't even have a logo. It was literally just, we're making one. In Metroid, it was, here's a logo, we're making one. Cool. But then you have situations like you could have Retro's game that's been in development for at least 2 to 3 years. We don't know shit about that game. That game wasn't even talked about. That game wasn't even hinted or teased at this point, which was really fucking weird. There were other things Nintendo could have touched on. I honestly don't think it helped them for having a short conference. I think they had enough for the Switch fan, but like there was more that could have been done with it, which is why I say Nintendo's wasn't necessarily great. I just think they covered their bases better. Now, if we had to be fair, Microsoft had overall more games, but Microsoft also, or none of them, like only like, I think someone even pulled out a list and said the only games that were actually exclusive to Microsoft was like, I mean exclusive to like the Xbox was Forza, Cuphead, and I think Sea of Thieves. I think those are the only 3 games that were actually exclusive. Oh no, and Crackdown. Crackdown? Yeah, Crackdown. Crackdown might have been the other one. But it's like, okay, so it's like 4 games out of like the 10 to 20 something you showed. And it's like, well, wow, that's a little fucking depressing. But I would overall say Nintendo was better overall because Nintendo's Direct covered every area. Covered all of 2017. And once again, it's the same thing I give Sony shit for. There was like no release dates for Fire Emblem, for Xenoblade. We got release dates for Mario Odyssey and Mario Raving Rabbids, But like 2 of the other games coming out this year also don't have release dates, which is a problem in its own right. Nor does Rocket League currently. It's one of those things where I would say Nintendo did better overall, but it's not like a landslide victory like some people are saying. It's just that they did better overall. I think overall their direct, even being 25 minutes is a bonus because Microsoft had to do all theirs in like an hour and a half, and to me the conference kind of nerfed a lot of the excitement for the announcements. And the fact that one of your most exciting things for Microsoft was, oh look, we have Xbox backwards compatibility, and you're just kind of like, that's like the loudest the crowd got. That's kind of a bad sign. Sony, to me, was the worst, which is something I never thought I would say, purely because they just kind of did like the bare minimum. And that's not saying the games were bad. It's not like I'm sitting there saying, Days Gone was terrible, God of War was terrible, Spider-Man was terrible. I have my little issues with each of those games, but you showed extensive gameplay footage from most of those games, Detroit Become Human, but none of them have fucking release dates. So that's 2 E3s all of these games have showed up to, and we still don't know when most of them are coming out. We only got early 2018 for God of War. Everything else either got like no release date at all, or just got a 2018 release date, which can range from January to December, meaning we could go into E3 next year and see some of these games again. The only games we're guaranteed not to see again at this point is probably the DLC, obviously, God of War possibly, and I think that's it. Because everything else was either didn't have a release date or and maybe possibly the VR, because the VR doesn't have release dates. And some people are like, why are you hammering on the release date thing so much? I wouldn't hammer on it if it was the first time shown. That's why I'm not overly hammering on Metroid or Pokemon's release dates, but I am hammering on Fire Emblem and Xenoblade's release dates, because those are games we've seen before and games that are coming out this year, which is weird. Whereas on Sony's, it was like, well, we've seen all these games before, and none of them are even remotely done. Why did you show games that early? I'm just being fucking consistent. So, like, overall, I think Nintendo had the best showing because it was short, concise, and to the point, although it did suffer from not having certain games that people were looking forward to seeing, especially because they just haven't been talked about at all. The new games that were announced, some of the games we already known about didn't have release dates, and the new ones don't. One of them didn't have a logo, and the other one we're not gonna see for like at least a year, if not 2 years. And then it was just, I felt like there was more. And then the fact that most of the games they did show off were just like cutscenes. Like Fire Emblem Warriors was just like a story trailer. So was Xenoblade with like a smidget of gameplay. Which I don't know, I think might have been for the Treehouse, which it was, as we saw yesterday. But it's kind of like, well, fuck, why not make a gameplay and story trailer? You could have literally, like, I just think the trailer was cut up badly. But they ended up just being cutscene trailers. What was it? Fire Emblem, Xenoblade, they were both cutscene trailers. But you got Mario Odyssey right, you got Yoshi right, you got Kirby right, you got Raving Rabbids right, you got Rocket League right, but for some fucking reason we couldn't get it for the 2 games that are still coming out this year. And as we saw in the Treehouse, you had gameplay demos for... I don't know. Which is why I'm not going to say Nintendo overwhelmingly won. To be fair, I think they won, but it wasn't like a fucking kick-in-the-face landslide. Now, for the fandom, it probably was, because Metroid is a franchise everyone cares about. But if I'm being objective, they won, but it wasn't like a fucking crushing victory. It was kind of like a few decimal points or a few points higher than the others. Now it's just me personally. If I include the Treehouse, then Splatoon last night was hype as fuck. And the major advantage with Switch currently right now is the fact that like we literally have a game lined up for every month up until like November. Think about it. ARMS at the end of this week, Splatoon 2 next month, Mario Rabbids August, Pokken September, Mario Odyssey October, and oh look, we got 2 or 3 games left. Rocket League, Fire Emblem, and Xenoblade, and we only got November and December left. I think we're good for this year. This would have been one of Nintendo's best first years for a console because they got a game for you every month, bruh. Yeah, I think the only months they've missed so far is May. I think May was it. And considering how late Mario Kart came out, you could have easily put that as an April or May title. So yeah, and then the fact that I'm just looking forward to Nintendo's games first because, oh look, all of them are coming out soon. We got games coming out soon. And as I said, Sony does too, but that press conference wouldn't have told you that. That press conference would have said, oh, we just kind of threw our hands up and said, fuck 2017. It's all about 2018, baby. 2018 is time for Sony. Sony always wins in 2018 with games that you saw, which will have been your third year of seeing them if they show up at E3 again. Because if I swear, if these games show up again at E3 this year and still don't have confirmed release dates, at that point, that's eat a dick mode. Some people might be willing to give them a pass, and I'll give them somewhat of a pass because you did show more footage of them. But bro, they show up again, that's eat a dick. That's eat a dick at that point. But yeah, those are my E3 thoughts. Tell me what you guys thought in the comment section below. I think my ranking, surprisingly, and I was pretty hard on Microsoft, but taking time and thinking about it, I think my order is Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, and for some people, I have no problem if you switch Microsoft and Nintendo around because Microsoft did show a lot of games that at least and nothing else are coming first to Xbox. I just don't put that much stock into it, which is why it's lower than Nintendo for me. That and also the lack of release dates, and we don't have anything soon we're playing. Anyways, then this in Game Freak, life's a game, play to win, and I will catch you guys later. Hey, we got Pokken, and I believe Pokken and Arms are today, and I think we're getting maybe a few more new games. Hopefully Switch games, not 3DS games. Although Return to Samus looks cool. Sonic Forces is looking good. Sonic Mania is looking good. Ni no Kuni 2. Yakuza 6. Shit's good. Good shit's coming. So, I mean, gamers should be overall happy. You're still getting games. It's just that for certain fan bases, you're getting certain games quicker than others. Now, if we can only fix some system updates for the Switch, and maybe some more console restocks. I might go to Best Buy today just for that reason. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.